doing it and to be around them kind of through osmosis, we learn how to have a functioning mammal brain. That's actually the way we were supposed to have our mammal brain functioning at a high level, is to have parents that had highly functional mammal brains that modeled it to us. They don't tell us how to do it, they model it to us, and then we mimic that behavior subconsciously. And so hanging around with animals is great, but if you have people that you think have a highly functional mammal brain, then hang around them as much as you can, and you'll, through osmosis, it'll stimulate your mammal brain to come out and play. Focus on this step for 10 days to implement a plan for these physical mammal brain stimuli before starting step 5. Review and modify as needed weekly. Step 4 will take about 3 to 6 months of intense focus to complete, after which your mammal brain instincts will be developed enough to tell you which aspects of this step to continue and which you can stop. So do as many of them as you can. Likely the hammock, I think, will only take between 1 and 6 months. After that, you won't have to sleep in it anymore. Similar to your mom rocking you and carrying you around as a kid, once you get to a certain point, you don't need it anymore. Step 5, human brain free will. At this point, you're just going to have to decide emphatically to make your number one priority above all else in every moment of your life this inner connection to your inner body and spiritual self that you are fostering. That's the mammal brain function. Make it more important than being right, more important than your past, more important than what others think about you, more important than the future, more important than correcting the mistakes of others, more important than being a good person, quote unquote, more important than what you do and accomplish. In fact, it is actually the only thing that is absolutely important in the universe. Everything else comes and goes, can only be relatively good, and is largely out of your control anyway. And the reason for that is when your mammal brain is functioning, you're wholesome and healthy, and humans are naturally wholesome and healthy and good, and when they're in their natural state and they're whole and healthy and their mammal brain's fully functioning, they can do no wrong. Everything they do becomes good and helpful for society. And so that's why it's the most important thing, is that past that point, it doesn't matter what you do because it'll all be good. Good is not a mammal brain word. I'm just using that to communicate with you. But essentially, everything you do will be helpful to society after that. And it'll be fun. 5B, the only way to do this is to feel how great it feels to be calm and peaceful, and conversely, feel how awful it feels to be stressed and disconnected from yourself. Once you deeply feel these two things and the contrast between them, you'll start to crave being calm and peaceful, and you'll start to do it more and more often, do all these things more and more often, and your mammal brain will wake up and develop, and it'll just feel natural, and you won't even have to think about it. Focus on this step for 10 days before starting step 6. Step 6, devil on the brain addictions. Become aware of each and every one of your addictions, whose purpose is to cover up emotional pain, give a false sense of safety to your reptile brain, and numb your mammal feelings. The most common addictions are thinking, junk food, drugs, gossip, television, movies, news, and sports, working and hobbies, shopping and hoarding, sex, video games, pornography, gambling, going to the gym, martyrdom, volunteering, codependency, or being a busybody, victimhood, complaining, and blaming, or any normal activity that is used to avoid facing physical or emotional pain. These 15 things are not inherently bad. I'm not saying to avoid them or stop them. I'm saying become aware of whether or not you are addicted to one or more of them, as all modern humans are addicted to at least one of them. Addictions are habits that feel familiar, but they are continual roadblocks and pitfalls that will trip you up on your journey toward healing your mammal-soothing brain, self-soothing brain. So A, identify and acknowledge your particular addictions. B, practice staying connected to your inner body, inner spiritual self, and inner sense of peace while doing these above activities that you're addicted to. For example, if your addiction is workaholism, you likely, for practical reasons, can't just stop working. Instead, while at work, refuse to numb your feelings and stay connected to your inner self no matter what happens. 7. Human brain. Oneness with God. A. Practice starting your actions each moment from this feeling of inner connection to your inner body spiritual self. And by the way, this is what all of the good religions and spiritual theologies tell you to do, but they often start with this step, and they don't address or don't know that they need to address the fact that your brain is stunted. Your brain is underdeveloped, and you can't actually do this step because you're so afraid of things and you have so much anxiety and your stress hormones are too high and you're addicted to thinking. So you see, this step actually, as I read it, sounds really cliche and it sounds impossible, and it's been tried for 12,000 years and it's not really succeeded very well. Everybody tries to do this. Everybody goes to church. They have religion. They have spirituality, but it doesn't seem to have changed the world that much. But with this formula, if you go through the steps of actually fixing your mammal brain and calming your reptile brain, your thinking brain, particularly the step 4, where you're physically doing these exercises to like the hammock and the feet and the massage, the dancing with friends, all these things that will physically strengthen your mammal brain. Once it gets bigger, so to speak, it'll actually come naturally to do this last step 7. You just have to put a little bit of intention, and or not. It probably will just be there already. So anyway, A, practice starting your actions each moment from this feeling of inner connection to your inner body spiritual self. What does God want you to do? It's not through thoughts that you can discern this. It is through an inner feeling, your inner conscience. When you are afraid of danger, overthinking, numbed by addictions, and oblivious to your body's feelings, you will be absent spiritual awareness and will have an impossible time hearing God's will for you and your actions each moment. God's will for you and God's will for your actions each moment. If you don't believe in God, just replace the word God and spiritual self with inner peace or mammal soothing brain, because it's the same thing. We sense God through the mammal brain, or the mammal brain produces a sense of God. God isn't required to exist for this to be true, but it explains a way that biologically we could communicate with God if God exists. It doesn't really matter either way. I mean, I guess in the big picture it might, but right here and right now, we need to fix our brain, and it's going to give us an internal sense of peace, and whether you want to call that God or biology, it doesn't matter. It is through our mammal brain's instincts that God communicates to us a deep sense of knowing what to do during each unique moment. And so this is the human's natural state, is to have an internal instinct to know what to do each moment for each unique situation. There's a trillion different situations that can happen, and each day is different. How do we know what to do in each unique situation? It would be impossible to figure it out by thinking about it. And in fact, that's what we're all trying to do. And we're stressed out partly because we're trying to think so hard about what's the right thing, when it's actually impossible to know what's the right thing until after the fact. Because all the probabilities playing out cannot be predicted, and sometimes we're intending to do something good, it turns out bad. And so that's extremely stressful to have that weight on your shoulders. But a fully functional brain doesn't use the thinking brain to figure all this out. It just uses the thinking brain as a tool once it's already decided what to do. So the mammal brain, through our internal instincts, decides what to do, and it decides in a way that is matter of fact, that it knows without a shadow of a doubt it's the right thing. And you can't explain how. It just knows, and nobody can talk you out of it because it just feels right. And then once you decide through your instincts, your mammal brain instincts, then we use the thinking brain as a tool to figure out how to accomplish that goal. And the thinking brain's really good at that part. It's really bad at deciding which goal to pursue. And so this is the main cause of our stress, is giving an impossible task to our thinking brain, which is decide what to do. And so it's like the reptile brain knows that's impossible, and really, as we developed our thinking brain throughout evolution, we became suddenly aware of all the different dangers and possibilities to the extreme because of our conceptual thought. And that was terrifying in a paralyzing way. And we would have gone extinct a long time ago had we not already had a mammal brain that was a soothing system and enabled us to have this unexplainable faith that everything's going to work out okay, even though it's unexplainably complex and dangerous. And so that's how we're designed, is to have a complete peace in the midst of chaos, and to be unexplainably at peace in the midst of chaos. And now that our mammal brain is stunted, we're in perpetual torture, really, because we're constantly afraid of the next shoe, of the other shoe to drop, whatever that saying is supposed to be, that the next thing bad that's going to happen. And we just get used to it. And so oftentimes patients will tell me, oh no, I don't have a lot of stress, even though everything that I'm finding on their tests and exams are pointing to the fact that they're really stressed and that's the cause of their problem. They're telling me, oh no, it's normal, I have normal levels of stress. Well, yeah, it feels normal to you because it's been there your whole life, but your stress hormones are too high, and that's why you're sick. All right, so by practicing the above 6 steps to heal your mammal brain and lower your stress hormones, you will develop a robust sense of your spiritual connection to God and inner peace, and can begin to readily act from this depth, a place of calm, confidence, and even joy. This is underneath step 7a. Again, just explaining that the first 6 steps allow you to do step 7. 7b, continue steps 2b and 3b as needed, the talk therapy or the NET, depending on how much trauma you've had in your childhood. Step 7C, continue the centering prayer and the Ki Aikido, or start the Ki Aikido if you haven't already. These will help you continue to advance on this front throughout your upcoming life. And then there's an extra credit that I'm not going to go over now, but you could read about it if you click on the article. All right. Ask questions below and I will answer them.